Ever feel like your brain is moving through mud, forgetting simple things, losing focus, or just feeling a little bit off? That's mental fog, and it's more common than you think. So in this episode, we're unpacking why it happens, how it shows up at different stages of life, and the small steps you can take to lift the fog and find clarity again. Stop judging yourself, make simple shifts, and listen to what your body is asking for. Because fog is feedback. It means it's time to give yourself some extra care. Hi, friends, welcome back, or welcome for the first time. I'm so glad you're here today, wherever you are, maybe driving, walking, folding laundry, or just sitting with a cup of coffee. Thank you for choosing to spend this time listening to our little podcasts. And if someone sent this to you today, thank them for caring about you. Thank yourself for giving yourself 15 to 20 minutes to just focus on you today. And focus is the most important part of that because that's what we're talking about today. As part of my process, I did a brain dump of a lot of ideas and thoughts to talk about, and mental fog just happened to be one of them. And then just this week, I was talking to someone and they brought up the fact that they feel like their body is physically changing, but their mind is also changing, and not in a great way, because they're feeling just so much mental fog. Now, last week's episode was about making peace with your body, so this conversation felt like a natural extension of last week, so I figured let's keep it going and talk about the physical and mental changes that may go on in your body that brings about this mental fog. Regardless of what stage of life you're at, so many of us deal with this, but often we don't have the words for it. You might call it brain fog. It's that fuzzy feeling where your thoughts feel slow, your memory slips, and even simple tasks feel harder than they should. And it's really so common for so many reasons. It happens at different points in our lives. It shows up differently for men and women, and it can feel extremely frustrating, especially when you're trying to get stuff done at work or at home. And maybe it can feel even scary, especially as you get older, possibly thinking that there's no way back from this and it'll only get worse. But the good news is there are small, simple steps that we can make to manage it and even prevent it, depending on what's causing it. So let's start with what mental fog actually is. It's not a disease or a diagnosis. Yes, there are diseases of the brain, but obviously I'm not in any position to speak on that topic. So what I'm talking about is more the symptoms of the most common mental fog. And it really is common, and in most cases, it's your brain's way of saying, hey, something's off balance here. It feels like forgetfulness of things that you shouldn't be forgetting, like when you go into a room for something and you have no idea what it was. You try to leave and retrace your steps just to try to remember. And I feel like I do this sometimes on a weekly basis. It can feel like trouble focusing where one day you could do 12 things at once, and now if one thing interrupts you, you feel like you've lost your place and you have a hard time reconnecting where you were. It can feel like your brain moving through mud, slowing your thinking down. It can maybe even feel like you're not fully present. You feel like you're just out of it a little bit. Sometimes it can feel like tiredness, lack of motivation, even sadness. Sometimes it shows up as scrolling your phone endlessly, putting off tasks, or feeling emotionally numb, not caring one way or the other. The first step is to stop judging yourself for it. Your mind isn't broken. You're likely just overwhelmed, exhausted, or disconnected from your needs. We live in a world that moves fast and expects us to be on all the time. And while occasional fog is normal, we all have our off days, and we can't all be performing at our highest every minute of every day. Persistent brain fog is a sign that your body or mind might need some attention. It's your subconscious way of saying, hey, remember me? I need a little love and attention right now. There's a lot of reasons that mental fog shows up. Sometimes it's short-term, like after a bad night of sleep, especially if you don't get good deep sleep that helps to reset our brains. Other times, it could be connected to other factors like stress or hormones or even nutrition. So some of the biggest culprits are stress, as I noted. When your brain is overloaded, it just doesn't process as clearly. And elevated stress hormones like cortisol can mess with your memory and concentration. Sleep. As I said, if you're not sleeping deeply, your brain can't do the cleanup work it needs to restore clarity. Nutrition and hydration, even mild dehydration, can slow you down. Missing out on key nutrients like B vitamins, omega 3s, or iron can leave your brain running on empty. I recently found out that I was low in omega 3 and iron, mainly because I'm mostly vegetarian, so I know I have to purposely compensate for that in my food choices. Hormones is another one. For both men and women, shifting hormones often affect brain chemistry. This can be especially true for us women in perimenopause or menopause. Not only can you feel like a stranger in your own body and how it's physically changing, but it sometimes feels like someone else is driving your brain, and that someone does not have a learner's permit. And finally, lifestyle factors. Too much screen time, lack of exercise, not enough fresh air. It's all the same stuff we know we need to take care of for ourselves. But when we don't, all of it can pile on and not only affect our bodies, but our minds in its ability to process efficiently. So if you've been feeling cloudy, you're not alone. As many others, your brain might just be asking for some care. What's really interesting is how mental fog shows up differently at different stages of life. In teens and young adults, it's often about sleep schedules, nutrition gaps, and overstimulation. Think about late nights with friends, cramming for exams, too much screen time, and overthinking from all the social media comparisons and worrying about what everyone else is thinking about you. In our 20s and 30s, brain fog is often lifestyle related, whether it's stress from school, jobs, relationships, plus inconsistent self care, where we may be drinking too much, eating late at night, and of course, kids needing our attention and time, which is wonderful, and we want to give them all they need, but it can be a lot at times and can take a toll. In our 40s and 50s, it starts to tie in with hormones, burnout, and sometimes underlying health issues. Parents especially can feel scattered trying to juggle everything as their kids are getting older and parents need to be bringing their teens here, there, and everywhere at all hours. And then, of course, later in life, we see more of the hormone story coming into play, especially menopause for women. And men, while you may not have that type of hormone shifts that women have, you may see a gradual testosterone decline, and this too can affect energy, focus, and memory. So if you've noticed mental fog showing up more at certain stages, it's not just in your head. Your body and brain are literally changing and reminding you that it needs a little more care. Now let's pause here because this is important. Brain fog can really feel different for men and women. For women, as we've discussed, perimenopause, which is that transition period, and then menopause, is a big one. As estrogen levels drop, so does support for certain brain chemicals tied to memory and focus. That's why so many women in perimenopause experience this, and then add in sleep disruptions from hot flashes, and it's a perfect storm. For men, the shift is usually slower. Testosterone gradually decreases, which can lower energy, focus, and drive. And on top of that, things like sleep apnea, which is more common in men, also contributes to sleep issues and can rob the brain of rest, fueling even more fog. The takeaway here is that brain fog isn't a weakness or a personal flaw. It's often biology plus lifestyle. And understanding that helps us show ourselves more compassion instead of judgment, but also realize that you may have options that help. So, what do we do about it? Do we wait out years of moving from each of these transitional periods in our lives and just suck it up and deal with it? No. While you can't stop much of the biology parts, you can maybe find some natural remedies and you can affect the lifestyle parts. So that's the good news because there are really practical, doable steps. And you know, we're all about little steps here, steps that you can take to deal with mental fog when it shows up. First, sleep smarter. Make sure you try to have a consistent bedtime when you go to bed and when you wake up, even on the weekends. Turn off screens at least 30 minutes before bed and create a calming routine. Maybe stretch, read, do some deep breathing, listen to some calming music, ocean sounds, or wind sounds through a forest, whatever works to calm your brain and get better rest. Second, fuel your brain. Eat whole foods with healthy fats like salmon, walnuts, or chia seeds. Eat close to the ground and unprocessed. That doesn't necessarily mean vegetarian, although there's some research that eating more plants can help reduce menopause symptoms since plants contain more estrogen. And I can say firsthand that my menopause was pretty easy without any drastic swings. But either way, eat more fruits, veggies, and if you're eating meat, then eat healthy meats that haven't been processed or injected with crap. Stay hydrated. Our bodies are about 60% water, and your brain loves water. And check for vitamin deficiencies. Sometimes brain fog is just your body saying, hey, I need more B12, or I need more iron. Your doctor can order blood tests that most insurance covers. Third, get your body moving. Exercise boosts blood flow to the brain, and you don't need to do an intensive workout. Remember, little by little. And it doesn't even really need to be a workout. You can just do a 20-minute walk, maybe yoga poses or stretching. Maybe dancing around your kitchen can make a huge difference in clarity. And if you're at work, just get up and move every hour, even if it's just to stand up and stretch a few times. Fourth is to manage your stress. When your stress hormone cortisol increases, your body thinks it needs to prepare for battle, to protect itself. So your brain concentration gets impacted as it thinks that you need to only focus on the danger being presented. Back in the day when we needed to focus on the tiger and how to move past it, that was great. But now that the danger is a deadline at work, it can backfire on us. So try to offset the stress, maybe with mindfulness, short meditation, and of course, walking meditation can be a 2-for-1. Practice deep breathing or box breathing. This is where you breathe in for 5, you hold for 5, you breathe out for 5, and you hold for 5. Do this a few times, and it can slow things down for you and clear your mind. And maybe even try to journal to get racing thoughts out of your head and onto paper. And finally, reduce overstimulation. Your job might require that you stare at a screen all day, but try to take screen breaks. Your brain wasn't designed for constant viewing and scrolling. And stop multitasking because it's not effective, and actually, it's a myth. Studies have shown that less than 3% of people can actually multitask. The rest of us are just quickly moving back and forth between tasks, and we actually become less effective and more likely to make mistakes and then blame brain fog. Try microtasking or focusing on one small thing at a time. Pick one small task and complete it. Tiny progress breaks inertia, and you may feel more productive in the long run and have less fog. Prevention is really about consistency. A few small habits, practiced daily, protect your clarity over the long term. Keep a steady routine because our brains thrive on predictability and patterns. Nurture your health and become more self-aware. That's what your body and brain is asking for anyway. Pay attention to changes, and don't be afraid to talk to your doctor if something feels off. And why not add in some playtime for yourself? Do some puzzles, read, or pick up a new hobby to keep your mind sharp. And be sure to protect your downtime by giving yourself some white space instead of filling every single second. Take a few extra moments to enjoy your coffee in quiet. Take a break at work and just sit with your eyes closed. Even 5 minutes can help. I'm a big believer of 10-minute naps in the car. Brain fog doesn't mean that you're failing. It doesn't mean that you're losing yourself. It means that your mind is signaling for rest, balance, and care. So be kind and generous to yourself. When you listen to those signals, when you adjust your sleep, your food, your stress, your routines, and you do it with grace and kindness towards yourself, you'll find that the fog may start to lift. And in that clarity, you find acceptance in the changes that you're going through. And with that acceptance and self-love, you find peace, you find presence, and you find energy to move forward again. So next time you feel the fog rolling in, pause and ask yourself, what's my body asking for right now? Do I need sleep? Do I need water? Maybe a break? Maybe some less stress? Ask yourself and respond with no judgment. This isn't about fixing you. It's about supporting yourself. The more you try to force your way out of fog, the less likely you will succeed. If you need to walk away for a bit, give yourself a rest, give yourself compassion. You'll have a much better chance at finding more clarity. As we say, let go and let flow. Thank you for spending this time with me today. And if this conversation resonated with you, share it with a friend who might be feeling a little bit out of sorts. Let them know that their mental fog is not a failure, it's feedback, and care enough to show them how they can help themselves. And feel free to leave a comment and let me know what small step you'll take to help yourself. Remember, you don't have to force your way forward or through. Sometimes the most powerful shift begins with softness. It begins with quietly listening to yourself. It begins with gentleness and love for yourself. And changes will happen, little by little and piece by piece. This podcast is based on my own life experiences. I'm not a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, or any other licensed medical professional. Please share this podcast with anyone you think needs to hear this so that we all move forward, little by little and piece by piece. And thank you, Purple Planet, for sharing your music.